Hey everybody, today is my first day back at work after taking bereavement leave last week. I have been completely just resting and trying to do body-led activities. My grief over my grandmother seems to be very physical. It's very in my body. I started to note I've been feeling foggy. I'm still feeling very foggy. But I started to notice that my heart physically hurt. My chest around my heart was just kind of hurting, and I thought at first I had heartburn, and then I watched this this movie called The Song of the Sea, which is on Netflix, and it was all about generational trauma. And there was a point in the video, which is kind of like the climax of the movie, where the bad guy gets to make a decision about who they're going to be going forward, despite the behavior that they've had in the past. And I actually, as I was watching that movie, physically felt the muscles in my chest relax and realized that I had been kind of like clenching my chest and core area for several days, and that's why it hurt. So that's definitely happening. I'm really slow today coming back to work. I set up my planner for the week on Mondays. And normally that is a practice that takes about half an hour, but today it took an hour and a half because that's just the speed I'm going at. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been observing my negative self-talk, which, not surprisingly, considering who she was in my life, as soon as we found out that my grandmother was dying, my negative self-talk just shot through the roof. It came back with a vengeance. I realized it right before she died, that the negative self-talk voice in my head is almost 100% her. It's very mercenary. Even during the time when I was taking bereavement leave, I could hear my grandmother's voice. I mean, it's kind of fitting. It's a good memorial to the woman she was. As I was taking bereavement leave and taking care of myself and resting, I could hear my grandmother's voice in my head asking me how much this bereavement leave was paying me. Like, you're taking all of this time off. How much money are you losing by taking bereavement leave? And oh my God, that is just a picture of the woman. She didn't have a lot of space for emotional health. She didn't have a lot of time for love and kindness to herself, first of all, but then also that trickled down to us, her children. And I don't want to make those choices in my life. I just don't. On to the part where I hold myself accountable and say what I want to do this week. It has been super hard to figure out what my intentions are for this week. I don't know if I'm going to be this slow all week long, if I'm going to get over it at some point, if I'm going to get worse. I can't predict what my emotional landscape is going to look like, because this is the first and only time I will ever mourn this woman. So for me, my intentions this week are to stick with my eating goals. I met my eating goals all week last week, bringing my eating goal streak up to 3 weeks in a row for the first time in my adult life. I have properly fed myself every day for 3 whole weeks. And that may sound bananas. Like, who doesn't know how to do that? Well, me, because I had a grandmother who didn't teach me how to do that. I had family members who never learned how to do that themselves. And now I'm learning it as an adult person, and it kind of sucks. But also, it's the hard work that I've chosen to do to not miss out on teaching these skills to my children, to not miss out on enforcing these skills in my company, etc. We spend so much of our days at work, and if we don't also talk about how we can perpetuate abusive and unhealthy systems at work, we're really not addressing the whole person here. We're addressing the person as a mother, as a daughter, as a sibling, as a whatever, but we're not addressing the person as a worker and as a manager and as a strategist and as, the business, as a community member. We're not doing that when we don't talk about these things as they apply to working. All that to say, my priorities this week are extremely thin. They are stick to my eating goals. They are stick to my rest. I have one concrete goal, and it is to work out what I'm going to do with my second business this summer. If we can't open up safely, we're not going to open at all. I also had a goal of increasing my client list in June. After a big push in April and May that brought us up to sort of like viability, we've leveled off in June. We haven't gotten any new clients in June, which I talked about this in my other videos. I've never grown this slowly before in a business. We've also never been in a global pandemic, and we've also never been in the middle of, or I've never worked in the middle of, what is hopefully a huge time for civil rights. What I want to do this week, in addition to those two other priorities, is embody the spirit of experimentation when it comes to getting new clients. Obviously, what I've been doing isn't working as well as I personally needed to do, and it may be true that there's kind of no right way to do this. Also, I'd like to just play around, and even if I don't figure it out, have some fun with what I do. So, those are my intentions for the week. If you have intentions for the week that you want to be held accountable for, share them down below. We'll keep each other accountable. I know a lot of us are working alone still, and things are changing rapidly as a lot of the states open back up and maybe also close back up again because... Anyway, I'll see y'all on Thursday. We'll tell you where it went.